Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about the importance of continuing to progress on your supplemental lifts. And when I'm talking about this, I'm saying it in the context of our multi-joint movements, our slightly bigger movements, because at the end of the day, a curl or a tricep extension or a rear delt exercise, oftentimes if we're doing those at the very end of a workout, as long as we're getting a really good pump, we're getting close to failure, we've already done our heavier work, it's not as important. And in other words, if you're doing an extension with, I don't know, 40-pound dumbbells, it may not be that important that you get them to 50 as long as you're hitting failure and you've done other big tricep movements. You've already done your heavier pressing and you're just doing it as a finisher. It's not what we're talking about, because these little finishing movements, we are usually just chasing some metabolic fatigue. We're trying to chase a pump. We're trying to get some blood flow into a muscle that we've hit with bigger movements. We're trying to shore up a weak link, usually, if that makes sense. Usually, for example, if our triceps are just not growing enough from closed grip benching and JM presses and stuff, we'll do smaller tricep exercises because we need them growing. And they need the extra work. Maybe one of the heads isn't getting activated enough. And it just needs an extra exercise to finish it off. Perfectly reasonable. And we see that with some muscles. That's really common even for strength athletes, for things like triceps, for rear delts, sometimes hamstrings, so on and so forth. I'm talking about bigger movements, like what you see in the background up here, good mornings, rows, incline benching, even reverse hypers. Right? We want to see general progress on these. Now, when you say that, a lot of people say, well, we're not having good morning Olympics. There's no competition for good mornings. Well, that's besides the point. If there's no progress, we're also not getting bigger. Okay? Why are we doing most of these supplemental lifts? Why are we doing them? To build multiple muscle groups that we need to come up. And without progressive overload, hypertrophy does not occur. We have to have progressive tension over time. Look, we can argue that, we can just add reps and add reps and add reps, or add volume. Maybe you can get away with that with the smaller movements, maybe for an extension up to a point. Bigger movements, we need to see that mechanical tension increase over time. So what does that mean? That means weight on the bar while maintaining good form. Okay, and that's our caveat, right? Watch the way I execute most of these movements. I'm doing controlled full range of motion, right? Those good mornings, I'm coming down pretty far, getting a really deep stretch on those power good mornings. Incline bench, I'm coming all the way down, pausing on my chest, locking it out at the top, right? Full range of motion, because mechanical tension is reliant on joint angles. So when we say mechanical tension, of course, if we start cheating through the hardest part of a movement, or bouncing or using inertia through it, or we cut range of motion through the part where the muscle has the most peak tension on it, where it's hardest, the bottom of the incline when you touch the chest, it's the most pectoral stretch right there, right? We cut that out at the expense of adding weight. We're not really getting progressive mechanical tension, are we? Right? We're not. We're ego lifting at that point. And I'm not saying ego lifting doesn't have its place. It's just harder to track your progress. It's harder to know if you're really adding mechanical tension. And you can have a couple lifts where you ego lift, and that's actually okay. You pick the right exercises for it. But generally speaking, you don't always know if you're getting more tension. So on a lot of these movements, though, we are saying increase tension with good form and full range of motion. Why? Because we're trying to hypertrophy. We're trying to build muscles. That's why we do these. We're bringing up the muscles that we need to get stronger, or just to get more jacked. Hey, at the end of the day, I'm fine if you guys want to look more jacked too. As long as we're still care about strength, I don't care if you want to look more jacked. Nothing wrong with that. I just don't like when people disregard strength and performance completely for it. If you want to do both and get the best of both worlds, hey, great, that's awesome. That makes you happy. By all means, do so, right? But we're trying to gain muscle here. And we need to progressively overload. So people say, well, what happens if you can't progressively overload it? Well, then you need to change it for another exercise. Because it's not doing any good. It will to a certain point, but before long, we start to have a situation where we get diminished returns. Again, biological law of adaptation. Usually about 3 weeks of the same stimulus, we stop gaining. Not just on the strength end, but what we mean is that if you're at a given strength and the strength has stopped, right, you're doing the exact same rep sets and weight. Let's say, your incline bench is 165 pounds for 3 sets of 6, and it's stuck there. After about 3 weeks, you're not going to grow. And every workout that you do, you're going to have a smaller and smaller training response. So at a certain point, the first time you do that exact workout, right, the 165 for 3 sets of 6, first time you do it, you're going to get a training response, right? And if that's the first time you've done that, it's going to be a good solid training response. Your pecs, front delts, they're going to get worked really effectively. Especially if that's a newer stimulus. You haven't done that weight before. Second time you do it, it's going to be reduced. You're going to get less training response, less muscle growth. The third time, it's going to be reduced even further. Right? And after about 3 weeks, you'll get nothing from it. You will not gain any muscle for the rest of your life doing that same workout. All it's going to do is maintain what you have. So if this happens, it's time to rotate the movements. Unless it's a movement we need, like the reverse hypers for restoration and stuff, right? There are other fringe benefits of something like that, so we would never want to take those out, although we could change it around and throw some bands over it. Change the stimulus, but we need to rotate the exercise. If you stall on an exercise, change it for a new exercise that you can progress on that works the same muscles that you want to work. You can change bars on the incline, right? Go to an axle bar, go to a football bar, change to dumbbells. You can change the angle of the incline. You got an adjustable bench, change it to 1 notch up or down. Add chains. And then try to progress on that, right? Progress on the new one. But we need to be making progress on them. We need to see a general upward trend in the weight on the bar for our accessory movements. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.